What's going on? Welcome back to another video. All praise to the Most High. Today, we have the most famous killing in history. Talk about Abraham Lincoln. I don't know. We're gonna see though. Let's get right into it, y'all. Ain't about to waste nobody's time. You feel what I'm saying?
It's the 15th of March, 44 BC, in Rome. The most powerful man in the Roman Republic, the dictator Julius Caesar, walks through the doors of the Curia of Pompey, the temporary gathering point for the Roman Senate's meetings. The usual venue, the Roman Forum, a kilometre to the southeast, is undergoing renovations to build a new Senate house in Caesar's name, and is unavailable. The Curia, meaning meeting place in Latin, is located at the eastern point of a large open courtyard known as the Portico of Pompey. Compared to the Forum, it's rather secluded. It has no direct access to the side streets of Rome, and the only exits lead directly onto the portico.
I thought Julius Caesar was like a famous painter or something like that. I didn't know he was a dictator. That's tough.
Today, this area is occupied by a large group of armed gladiators, who are loitering near the Curia entrance, trying to stay inconspicuous. Inside the Curia, senators are nervously milling about. They watch as Caesar takes a seat on his golden ceremonial chair at the front of the room. Caesar's right-hand man and closest ally, his co-consul Mark Antony, who had been with him before he entered, is nowhere to be seen. Unbeknownst to him, Antony is nearby, just outside, but he's being distracted by another senator. Caesar is alone. Across the room, a man rises from the benches and starts walking towards him.
Yeah, all this for an intro? The assassination of Julius Caesar. Alright, I like the build up.
But first, this video is sponsored by Odoo.
I don't give a damn.
Is defined. Let's get back. Caesar had grown too powerful. Over the course of an almost 40-year career, he reached Rome's highest public office, consul. He conquered all of modern-day France and Belgium and parts of Switzerland, Germany, and the Netherlands.
So wait, the time used to go backwards? Like, you count down? Who made that up? They actually used to do that back then, or that's just something that we nowadays have made up?
All accounts, he was a military genius, and charismatic too. His armies, comprised of Roman legions, became loyal to him and only him. His many victories with them made him fabulously wealthy. Finally, he had a habit of pandering to the masses, opposing unpopular policies and presenting himself as a man of the people. He became very popular, perhaps too popular. In 49 BC, fearing Caesar was becoming larger than Rome, the Senate, alongside his chief rival, Pompey the Great, moved.
Clout been a deadly drug. They been ain't want they also had no clout. Yes,
against him. They attempted to recall him from his campaign in Gaul and strip him of his military command. A command which gave him legal immunity under Roman law. Sensing that his enemies wished to prosecute him and curb his power on his return to the city, Caesar made a fateful decision. With a legion of soldiers in tow, he crossed the Rubicon River in northern Italy. The river marked the border between the Roman heartland and its other provinces, and by Roman law, all returning generals had to disband their armies and lay down their arms.
I still don't understand how they used to get around, bro.
Internal conflicts.
I'd have been lost.
By deliberately ignoring this, Caesar started a civil war, one that would last 4 years and span the entire republic. In March of 45 BC, he would win that civil war, having defeated Pompey the Great, the only man that could rival him in influence and wealth. This made him the undisputed most powerful man in Rome. The Senate, an institution that once sought to reduce his power and influence, elected him to the consulship a further 3 times. and finally, in February of 44 BC, granted him the title of dictator for life. For a time before the foundation of the Roman Republic, Rome
is
had...
that what Vladimir Putin is right now? Like Kim Jong-un? Like, is that what they at right now? It's crazy how many different societies it is, even today.
By kings. Tyrannical, cruel kings. When the last monarch, Tarquin the Proud, was overthrown around 509 BC, the Roman people, particularly the conservative aristocracy that would end up forming most of the Senate, vowed that no king should rule Rome again. It now seemed that Caesar fancied himself a king. He began wearing opulent royal garbs and constructing statues of himself in public. His allies called for extravagant celebrations in his honor and proposed and later succeeded in changing the month of Quintilis, the month he was born, to Julius. He installed in the Senate a golden chair designed specifically for him, the chair upon which he sits today. Caesar had grown too powerful, and he was flaunting it. He threatened the continued existence of the Republic. If defeating him on the battlefield was impossible, his foes would have to find another way.
What's the point of doing that if you ain't gonna pop it? You feel what I'm saying? Why was you, Julius?
The men who conspired to kill Caesar, a group of about 60, are diverse in their backgrounds.
60 senators? And ain't them your own people? But 60, I don't know. We got 60 ops.
A few are former allies who felt their loyalty to him had not been sufficiently rewarded. Some are remnants of the Pompeian faction, the group that fought Caesar during the Civil War under Pompey the Great, a group he, perhaps foolishly, pardoned. A handful simply oppose his accumulation of power out of principle, fearing he would destroy the state's republican values. Most, however, are members of the conservative aristocracy, who profit greatly from Rome's republican form of government as they monopolize the Senate and thus oppose Caesar's centralization of power. These men have been meeting in secret for months to hatch a plan to kill him. They considered assassinating him in public on a street in Rome known as the Via Sacra. This was probably abandoned because the venue was too public. Any ally of Caesar's, if they were nearby, could simply intervene. Caesar had no bodyguards on payroll while in the city, but he was known to surround himself with some particularly intimidating friends to compensate. Another questionable idea was flinging him from a bridge and placing a number of armed men below it to ensure the fall would be fatal. They also considered striking while he was at a gladiator show, as they could hide the assassins in plain sight, posing as gladiators. Ultimately, though, a Senate session on the 15th of March was selected to be the best time to strike. Soon after this date, Caesar would be outside of the city on a military campaign to defeat the Dacians and the Parthian Empire to Rome's east, making it far more difficult for them to reach him and allowing him to accumulate even more glory, prestige, and power. Choosing a Senate meeting made sense, too. All those present were sure to be unarmed, as it was generally prohibited to bring weapons into the Senate House,
but did they do pat-downs and metal detectors?
Most of the Senate were indeed loyal to Caesar, but even his closest allies would think twice to spring to his defense when faced with a blade. Additionally, in a closed Senate meeting, Caesar could be dealt with more subtly, away from the prying eyes and ears of the public and Caesar's informal protection.
You gotta stab that man, bro.
So, on the day of the 15th, daggers are secretly brought into the Curia of Pompey in wooden boxes usually used to carry writing tablets for record-keeping. Before Caesar's arrival, members of the conspiracy retrieve the blades and conceal them underneath their togas. Outside the building, the conspirators deploy a group of armed gladiators to cover the Curia's exits, ensuring that Caesar won't get far should he try to escape. They are owned by the senator Decimus Brutus, a man that Caesar considers to be a close friend and ally. a man named second in his will, a man that Caesar trusts. Caesar would not question the presence of the gladiators, knowing them to be Decimuses. Finally, when Caesar arrives with his co-consul Mark Antony, a senator by the name of Gaius Trebonius pulls him aside and begins to speak with him.
What you talking to my partner about? What you talking to my partner about? I'm standing right here too. Whatever you can say to him, you can say in front of me. What you talking to my partner about? And you better have a good explanation. You better carry on this conversation, because if you don't, you getting your ass out. That's over with.
Antony is a big, brawny man, and his loyalty to Caesar is without question. The conspiracy thought it wise to take him out of the equation and ensure he did not intervene in Caesar's defense. Though the conspirators originally considered murdering the both of them together, they thought the optics of killing Caesar alone would be better. It would appear like the just killing of a tyrant, and not an arbitrary massacre. The stage is now set. All that remains is for the signal to be given.
That's tough.
That signal is Senator Tillius Cimber. As he marches towards the dictator, he exclaims loudly that Caesar should pardon his brother and return him from exile. Suddenly, dozens of other senators rise from their seats, and they too start approaching Caesar, shouting words of support for Cimber's request. The senators circle him like sharks in the water, growing ever closer, until Cimber thrusts out his fist and tears Caesar's toga down, revealing the tunic underneath. Startled, Caesar recoils and shouts. Moments later, the senator Publius Casca strikes the first blow from behind, with a dagger thrust that grazes Caesar's shoulder. He rises in shock, twirls around, and allegedly stabs Casca with a pen in retaliation. But alas, the pen is not mightier than the sword. In seconds, Caesar becomes enveloped by a shroud of togas and collapses under a hail of daggers. Two Caesar loyalists try to break through to defend him, but they are pushed back. Marcus Brutus, a leading conspirator and former Pompeian, stabs Caesar in the groin amid the frenzy. A truly humiliating blow. After inflicting 20...
Why you had to stab him in the groin, or you had to stab him with his private parts? He must have did something with somebody that you like or something. That's a real, and that's a knife. That's a real specific area to stab somebody. I need context to that. Why? Anybody ever interviewed him? Why he do that?
3 stab wounds, the crowd of assassins stand back and admire their work. The would-be king, the tyrant, is dead. In a twist of irony, Caesar would bleed out beneath a statue of his former Civil War rival, Pompey the Great. A statue he had refused to tear down.
That's tough.
Caesar should have seen it coming.
He got a real back
According
door.
to classical sources, a month before his demise in February of 44 BC, he visited a fortune teller by the name of Spurina. He brought to her an animal to be sacrificed, and it is said that on the altar she could not find its heart in its chest cavity. Seeing this as a bad omen, she warned Caesar his life was in danger. The next day, when he returned again with a different sacrifice, she was unable to find part of its liver. From the entrails of the animal, she divined that Caesar would come to great harm on the Ides of March, otherwise known as the 15th, the midpoint of the month. But that wasn't all. The Roman historian Plutarch tells us that on the day before the 15th, Caesar and a fellow senator began discussing the best way to die. To which Caesar responded, quote, "A death which is unexpected." Ominously, later that evening, when he and his wife Calpurnia were asleep, the windows and doors of their bedchamber flew open simultaneously, rousing Caesar from his slumber. His wife was yet asleep, yet she tossed and turned, muttering something under her breath. The next morning, upon waking up, she begged Caesar not to attend the Senate meeting, for she had dreamt their house had collapsed and seen visions of her holding Caesar's bloodied, lifeless corpse.
Oh, so he just don't listen. That's what that is. That you mean to tell me all these things, all these red flags happening back to back to back to back to back to back to back. Now I understand, you know what I'm saying? Some people ain't spiritual. This BC, so before Christ, I assume y'all ain't know nothing about nothing back then regardless. But at the same time, did nobody, like, would y'all just sit here and be like, oh yeah, everything just keep on happening, whatever, it'll get better, I ain't worried about it. You that gangster? I don't think you that gangster. I ain't that gangster. If I see 4, 5 different things that's going bad, all right, let's sit down and assess the situation here.
Caesar was, by Roman standards, not particularly superstitious, but the mounting signs were enough to put even him at unease. To be sure, he summoned his own seers and had them conduct sacrificial rituals. All of them yielded bad omens. That was enough for him to postpone the Senate meeting, resolving not to attend. So why in the end did he end up going? Well, his old friend, Decimus Brutus, convinced him on the morning of the Senate meeting to ignore the omens and attend anyway. He appealed to Caesar's ego. Would it not appear improper and above all ridiculous or cowardly if Caesar did not show his face at a session he summoned merely on the grounds of superstition? What would that sort of behaviour do to his reputation?
He got backdoor.
So he went, and on his way to the Curia of Pompey, he was stopped by a man on the street. The man handed him a scroll and urged him to read it immediately, claiming it concerned him. Reports tell us that this scroll supposedly contained details of the plot against him. For one reason or another, Caesar did not read it, and walked directly into the lion's den. Caesar's death would lead to a power vacuum and civil war that determined the fate of the Republic. Caesar's adoptive son, Octavian, and his former consul, Mark Antony, would form an alliance with one of Caesar's most trusted generals, Marcus Lepidus. Together they would hunt down the men that murdered Caesar and crush all who opposed their rule, leading ultimately to the fall of the Republic and the rise of a hereditary monarchy under the Roman Empire. Octavian would become emperor, and he would not make his father's mistakes. Caesar pardoned many of his enemies, even promoted them and gave them honours. Where others would have destroyed every trace of Pompey, Caesar elected to keep his statues up as a show of grace. His mercy might have killed him, and it might mean that the last thing that Caesar ever saw while he was dying in a pool of his own blood was a statue of Pompey, staring down at him mockingly. Caesar treated his foes too kindly and flaunted his power too brazenly, making him a man that people hated, not necessarily a man that they feared. In the words of the historian John Balston, if an authoritarian government was to be established successfully in the Republic's place, it must not be, like Caesar's, an inconsiderate, careless and frank authoritarianism. It must wear a Republican mask, however false.
Julius Caesar got backdoored by his own folk. That's all that means, pretty much. Anyway, that's gonna do it for this video, bro. I'm gonna catch y'all in the next one. Eat fruit, get you some money, and as we learned from this video, if they your ops, they gonna forever be your ops. What you helping them for. And then also, watch your people. Yep. Catch y'all in the next one.